You're listening to a Brain Stew Fresh Fright Review.
What's up, creeps, and welcome to a brand new epic film, guys. Non-spoiler, Fresh Fright Review. I'm Justin, and I'm once again joined by none other than the one, the only god of podcasting. You know him, you love him. Maybe some of you actually hate him. LoySauce.
What an introduction. My goodness.
And can you imagine? I'm actually sober right now, too. What the fuck is wrong with me?
Well, I don't know if I could possibly live up to anything you just said except for the you hate him part. But
I said they might. I know people listen to this show that hate me. There's absolutely people that are like, I'm listening just to hate that dude more.
I'm going to complain about his Batman takes on social media.
Oh, yeah, we don't want to open up that bag of worms or can of worms, whatever the fuck. I promised myself I would never go public with discussing it. So I'm not going to mention any people or names.
No one in particular who I'm
Let's just say that when you do a podcast and you review movies and you have done it as long as I have been doing it, which as of this recording is almost 11 years next month.
Oh my God.
Yeah, crazy, huh? You're going to have some crazy fans. You're going to have some people that might turn on you. You're going to have some toxicity coming your way. And you never know who or when, but be prepared for it. That's all I'll say. But we are here to talk about
on that note,
movie.
Clown in a Cornfield.
Clown in a Cornfield, which, per the timing of this episode, debuted at South by Southwest. It had its premiere. We had the opportunity to see it early as well, and we felt like it being a slasher and it having a clown in it meant that it was something that we should cover, right? I mean, those are two things that...
I mean, the movie's called Clown in a Cornfield, so... I mean, it sounds exactly the kind of schlock that we love.
Dude, absolutely. And, you know, I know that B-Ratty hasn't had a chance to see it yet. He is currently on vacation, but he has read the book. And I know the book itself by Adam Cesare is very beloved in the horror realm. It's a teen horror novel. And I've never read it. I know you've never read it, so...
From all that I can gather, it seems like it's a pretty faithful adaptation. I mean,
sure,
Brady would have to be the expert on that, but it seems like it follows a similar premise, which is what?
Yeah, that premise is a fading Midwestern town in which Frendo the Clown, a symbol of bygone success, reemerges as a terrifying scourge. Scourge. There it is, correcting me in how I say my words there. Not as smart as their LoySauce, but I just talked like one of the characters in the fucking movie.
Oh.
It's interesting because right off the bat, I have to say this. It says Midwestern town. This is supposed to be out in the Midwest. And you have a couple characters doing some really distinct, strange Southern accents in the movie. Like that.
Sometimes.
Couple characters. Is this really in the Midwest? But in terms of anticipation for this movie, did you have any at all, LoySauce?
Yeah, I mean, the trailer showed promise. It has, pedigree. Our friends at Shudder distributed the film. It's produced by the team who brought us the Smile films. And it's directed by Eli Craig, who directed a very funny and gory horror comedy that, if you have not seen, I would actually highly recommend checking out, called Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's pretty well known at this point,
Absolutely.
But I still feel like it's something that kind of runs under the radar pretty often.
From 2010, mind you. So it was a while ago that came out. And I haven't seen him do anything else.
He did Little Evil
Little
with
Evil? Okay, that's right.
Adam Scott, and I've not seen that, but I think people liked that for the most part. I think it went direct to streaming, but
it did. Yeah, I remember when that landed, and I'm like, Adam Scott, I will usually watch in a post Severance world. I think I'll watch anything with Adam Scott in it now.
Yeah, but the thing is, those are distinctly comedies with more of a horror slant to them, whereas this is a pretty straightforward slasher movie. So I was anticipating checking this out.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I saw the trailer. I thought the trailer looked good. We were actually starting to cover it pretty heavily on our social media platforms. I liked the poster. The trailer looked like, a larger budgeted movie within the same vein as like last year's Founders Day, which most people didn't like, but I did. And, just another new slasher. I'm usually the guy, LoySauce, that supports and backs and goes out of my way to watch these new modern slasher movies because half the time I really enjoy them. And I did read a quote from the writer that said he did not want to do so much a throwback slasher as an attempt at a modern slasher with modern themes. And I thought that was an interesting approach, even though, again, I've never read the book. And I do want to take the time. There's also an audiobook, which is way easier because I can listen to it when I'm working as well. But the whole idea, you just imagine that imagery. You and I are a big fan of schlocky B horror movies from the 80s and the 90s. And you think of a title like Clown in a Cornfield, you just imagine that imagery of like a wide shot of a cornfield, an old barn, and you see a clown. It's a pretty powerful image. There's something to do with that kind of gets into your psyche. So that instantly got me interested in it. And knowing that it has a director behind it that has some good stuff under his belt, it's like, yeah, sure, why the hell not? I'll give this thing a shot. And, well, I thought it was very interesting to see the reactions that we have read so far from South by Southwest. I've been in those situations myself, okay? You've been to film festivals. I've been to big events that are pre-screening movies before they hit the public. Is there such a thing as, I'm not going to use the word overhype because I fucking hate that word and too many people use it in their tweets, but is there such a thing as like festival hype?
Yeah. Yes, 100%. And as you alluded to, we are not necessarily immune to this, but it is a phenomenon that when you're at a festival and you're with the crowd and there's this electricity, people are excited to be there, the filmmakers are in attendance, they come out and talk about how much passion they had for the movie, how excited they are for the audience to see it. It's I feel like it's very easy to succumb to I don't want to say psychosis, but an energy, a certain energy that you don't really get when you're watching the movie elsewhere. The theatrical experience can add a lot to that.
Also booze.
Well, that's the other thing.
I can attest to this for, I don't know how many one of our reviews were 2 weeks after I saw the movie. I'm like, man, really? I'm being facetious here, but
if you've been imbibing alcohol throughout the day and there's a later evening screening of a new slasher movie, your enjoyment might be enhanced, and that's what I'll put it that way.
Yeah, maybe.
I have not ruled out gas leak in the theater, or the entire audience was high on crack.
Did they like, put tubes of laughing gas into the vents? And
I don't know. But I mean, I'm running out of reasons as to potential reasons as to why the reactions and reviews to this thing are so effusive. Because this thing sucked.
Dude, I had this feeling after we finished watching it, and then you take.
Am I an alien from another planet? Like what?
Yeah, I felt like I wasn't myself because this thing absolutely seems tailor-made for me and my tastes.
I mean, you liked Founders Day, so
Listen, me liking one piece of trash does not mean I'm going to like every piece of trash. You know,
okay, good
if you
point.
see a homeless guy on the corner, he might grab that rotten banana off the ground, but he might not grab a rotten apple. You know,
True.
there's still preference there, and there's still taste to be had. But there again, and I'm not going to say
you compare this movie to Rotten Fruit.
Well, it's not currently rotten, LoySauce. It's actually like 90% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, granted, there's only been, I think, 21 reviews, but for a non-franchise teen slasher movie, that absolutely shocks me. Absolutely shocks me. Now,
even for a movie of this sort, that's pretty high. Although, again, I know that South by Southwest tends to kind of veer more towards genre fare and genre, attract genre fans. So, I can understand that. But
you still have major critics there. You still have major big time critics there. So that's the point.
But are people really this desperate or starved for this type of? I mean, again, I'm not putting movies like Thanksgiving or Hard Eyes or the most recent Scream sequels on any kind of pedestal. But just in comparison to those movies, this is really lacking in a lot of ways that I feel like should have been kind of no-brainers.
This felt there were things I did like about this, and the one thing that I did like about it is that it did feel modern, and purposely so. It's not something trying to be a throwback, but also at the same time trying to be modern. It literally is just trying to be modern, but it still has this 90s vibe to it in its locations. And I do have to give a lot of credit to the town that they shot in. The houses, like the environments all had some sense of atmosphere to them, which I assume can connect well to the actual book. And I think our main character is also pretty damn good. I really liked Katie Douglas as Quinn Maybrook. Quinn is our central character, a teenage girl who is a senior in high school. She's recently moved to the small factory town of Kettle Springs from Philadelphia after the tragic death of her mom and her father, Glenn, who has been hired as the new town physician in the hopes that this will allow the two of them to heal and bond together. But of course, we all know how these stories go. Quinn ain't fucking having that. No, she's going to hang out with the bad kids. She's going to cause trouble. She's going to find out what's interesting in this lame-ass small town. And as LoySauce always likes to say, say it.
I'm assuming you're wanting me to say hijinks ensue?
There we go. Absolutely.
Okay.
Murderous hijinks in this case by Friendo the Clown. Now, of course, this book was released in 2020, and the original Terrifier came out when? 2016.
Yeah.
So, but it was Art the Clown was not the massive success in 2020 that he became after Terrifier 2 in 2022. But obviously we have Pennywise with Andy Muschietti's It movies. So clowns have become in vogue again.
I would have loved for this movie to have like the kind of anarchic spirit of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, for example. I mean, that movie's utter chaos. It's colorful. It's funny. Obviously, this is going for a different kind of tone, but I guess I just expected more from the director of Tucker and Dale versus Evil, I guess. And especially with such a, you could have imbued kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of tone for this kind of movie. There's a couple moments that made me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
But aside from that, this is pretty like po-faced in terms of its, I mean, I understand you have to have like backstories for these characters, but like, I don't know, you have the teen characters trauma bonding over their dead parents, and it just, I don't know. To me,
Well, is
To
this
me,
it?
to,
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, is this a case of this was in the book, released in 2020, and this was before every fucking movie was doing it, and now it just seems like it's run of the mill in that sense, but it actually was there in the source material way before those movies started churning those out. Because you and I talk about this a lot. Trauma, we talk about this a lot on the show, actually, in general. Trauma for the past couple of years has been like the main source for horror movies. It all goes back to Halloween 2018, where Jamie Lee Curtis famously said trauma in every fucking trauma. Interview. It's about trauma. And then ever since then, we've been seeing that in these movies.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely, I'm getting a little bit weary of the whole, trauma as a or horror as a metaphor for grief and trauma and all of that. This is less metaphorical and more just like we need to kind of give dimension to these characters. And I understand that we need to make them sympathetic. But at the same time, what my main criticism is that these characters are either very sullen or they're just playing to the stereotypes of like the ditzy blonde girl and the jock character who loves to lift weights and tell jokes about his dick. Like, I mean, again, if it were playing on these well-worn genre tropes, that would be one thing, but it's not really doing that in a way that's clever or
interesting or original or fresh or continue that on. And to the point you were saying about like the connection of these characters over the trauma, or trauma, as Jamie Lee loves to say, I didn't feel any impact from it when we actually encounter the scene with these two characters conversing over such things. I didn't feel any emotional impact from it. The characters didn't seem like there was an emotional impact. It felt like it was just there to be there. Maybe just not conveyed very well on screen in comparison to on the page. But
there is nice interplay between Quinn and her father. There's kind of a setup and a payoff where early on he tells her that he's going to drive stick, and she shoves him off basically. And later on down the line, there's a part where it might be advantageous for her to be able to drive a manual transmission, and she can't, and so that was nice. And then it comes back a little bit later, ties everything in a nice little bow. Clearly thought was put into the story, but I guess I just have reservations about how that story is told, because I think you can bring a little bit of life to the proceedings with a sense of humor or with kind of maybe a more playful tone. And instead, there's a lot of kind of marking time until these kill sequences that aren't very well placed in the movie. It kind of seems like they come at random, very little suspense.
Dude, there's zero suspense in this movie. Let's be very, very clear here.
And the kills themselves are, I will say, serviceable.
I'm not sure I'm going to agree with you there. I think there's some really good. Not all of the kills are great. Not all of them. I think there's some really good stuff there. But there's also, think about when I try to compare these things, and I try not to, but when I do, I think about it. Well, look back at this slasher, look back at that slasher. There's always, it's almost like a really good album with filler songs. There's always going to be filler kills. You know what I mean? There's
or filler scenes of people talking.
There's only so many slasher movies that have a lineup of tracks that are like, killer track slasher kills. Not everything can be an A+ kill. I do think the movie opens pretty strong. I will say this right now. If it's in the book, then Adam Cesare clearly fucking loves Jaws. Okay. Because it's Jaws.
It's it's the scene from Jaws that opens.
We were talking about it earlier. If the film was more self-aware, now a lot of people that saw this, claim that it is extremely distinctly self-aware. We didn't feel that way. At least I know I didn't feel that it was self-aware enough. Now imagine that opening where, not saying I want to wink to the audience, but it's Jaws. Like
it didn't need to be a parody either. But again, just just maybe maybe having a little bit of fun with these genre tropes instead of just like here's
Well, there's a line.
this regurgitated.
There's a line. It's in the trailer of one of the characters, and they're running from Friendo the clown. I think it's the character of Ronnie, and she says something along the lines of like, "This feels like I'm in one of those really shitty '80s slasher horror movies." And
that's not enough.
I was like, no, and the line wasn't delivered very well. It wasn't funny. I don't know who that's for. There,
it's like in Scoob, which was that horribly disrespectful, like CGI animated Scooby-Doo movie, where they say they draw attention to the fact like, oh, this is like the lamest thing ever. Like it's this creaky old property from the 70s, and I'm like, it's an adaptation. Like you're doing Scooby-Doo. So it's like you're disrespecting it while at the same time just doing it. And so that's why I feel like a line like that is so out of place in this movie, because like you are a shitty slasher movie that's aping off of those, like the formula of the 80s slashers. That's what you're doing. So it's like just commenting on it is not enough.
A line like that in for example, Scream with Sidney Prescott mentioning like the big breasted woman, running upstairs when she should be running out the door. That's not, I'm paraphrasing here, but that makes sense in that movie because that's what that movie is, and it does it fucking well. It does it in spades. Here, I just didn't think it was funny enough or self-aware enough to go that way, which is why it's frustrating to know that you have a director, Eli Craig, who did something exactly that in 2010 with a very fan favorite movie.
Completely flipped the genre on its head.
And here we have something that doesn't, for me at least, it felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be. It's almost there because there is a lot to like about it. Like I said, I didn't walk away from this thing hating it. If anything, I walked away from it very frustrated and confused and questioning myself. What is wrong with me? Now, once again, I watched this movie sober. Was everyone at South by Southwest fucking shit-faced? Because apparently people were cheering and roaring. It is that type of movie, and we've been there. So that's the kind of environment where you want to experience one of these movies like this for the first time. That's the question. I have to ask that to you on the air. Would we have felt differently about this movie had we been there in that environment on that night watching it with that crowd?
I can't definitively say. I'll use this as an example. I saw It's a Wonderful Knife in theaters, and I had some, alcoholic beverage that evening.
You can say it. You were trashed.
I wasn't trashed, but I was experiencing a nice little warm buzz, and I enjoyed that film more than just about anybody else I talked to.
I liked it.
And it did kind of make me kind of self-conscious about my opinion. Like, did I have a good time with it because of these circumstances? And so, I mean, it's entirely possible that this crowd who is seeing the film for the first time, again, with talent, filmmakers and cast in attendance, there are a couple brief moments that kind of give a kind of a nitro blast of energy to the proceedings, but it's very short-lived, and it's not enough to pick up the slack of the rest of the movie, dragging it down. There's a great bit that everyone seems to reference in their reactions or reviews, where I guess it's whatever generation these characters are, Gen Z, they encounter, or maybe is it Gen Alpha? Maybe they're a little bit too young. Are these Gen Zers?
LoySauce, I have no fucking clue what generation they are.
Anyway, the younger. I sound so elderly, but like the younger generation characters.
You're usually the one correcting me on these things.
Anyway, these teen characters encounter a rotary telephone in this backwater town. And it's a heightened emergency situation. They need to contact help, and they can't figure out how to dial the phone. First of all, it's something we've seen before. And I feel like it would be funnier. It would have landed much more if that wasn't like the only joke in like this just like like dirge of a film. Like all of a sudden there's a joke and you're like, your brain can't even process that a joke has been made, because you're like, oh, were they trying to be funny now? Like they haven't really been trying so far. So there's also a great moment, and I will credit this to Aaron Abrams as Dr. Maybrook, Quinn's father. There's a great moment with him. And I don't want to spoil it because it did really make me laugh.
That is a great moment. I actually loved that moment. That's what I'm saying. This movie was almost there for me.
So it needed more of that. And I do wonder, if the circumstances were different, would I have found the film overall to be more enjoyable? But the thing is too, I mean, with the kills, because that's your bread and butter for a slasher
Absolutely.
film.
That's why I'm there.
You want your slasher villain to have presence. You don't want him to just walk on screen, perform a kill, and then like walk off screen. It's so lackluster. And we have been spoiled a little bit with characters like Art the Clown, who have personality, who have presence. And that's what I was kind of hoping with Friendo in this film. But it's just a guy in a clown mask that is obviously like very easily, or rather a lazily constructed mask that you could find at Party City. I mean, there's no... I don't know. There's no presence to this the slasher villain. And people calling Friendo the Clown an icon, get right the fuck out of here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'll follow you.
New
and stuff
icon there. Friendo. It's like in no universe, no shot.
I said this in my blurb for Hard Eyes. I said we have found the new horror icon in Hard Eyes, and I truly believe that. I thought the imagery of the character, I thought the presence of the character, I could see it as an action figure. I can
sense of humor.
I can see it on a shirt.
Yes.
It made sense to me. And we're in a world now where movies are coming out purposely trying to create horror icons. M3gan, Megan, that's one of them. They're trying distinctly to create one, and some of them are successful and some of them are not. Friendo, which was the next subject I wanted to bring up. When you look at the image, they distinctly tried to make it not look anything like Art the Clown. But Art the Clown, Friendo is not. Motherfuckers trying to say he's going to give Art the Clown a run for his money. You get the fuck out of town. It's not even close. The image does look cool. It is a regular looking clown. It's a mask. So there's not like, there's not anyone going to emote in his face. It's classic slasher. It's a mask. We've seen other clown killers before and lots of other low budget slashers. It does look cool in the right lighting. You know what I mean? Like, I like the image. I'm looking at one of the posters for it right now, and it looks pretty accurate to, you know, the original artwork on the book. It's not bad. It's not terrible, but I do agree. It does look like a generic clown mask you could buy. Did you say Party City, by the way? Because Party City is now bankrupt and they're all closed around the country. They're gone. Okay. It makes me sad.
All right. Well,
I just wanted to bring that up, that now, ladies and gentlemen, Spirit Halloween will be the only Halloween store you can go to that will pop up in your town every year, because Party City is unfortunately now obsolete. So now you just made me sad.
Well, I'm sorry. I guess I'm behind on the times.
No, it's okay. But I agree with you. I think that there's something there, but it much like the rest of the movie, it doesn't quite get there for me. Now, there's lots of cool different weapons used, so I love variety in my killers. I don't want, you know, if it's Michael Myers, sure, just give him his butcher knife. If it's Jason, sure, let him have his machete. But I like when they do variations and do different kinds of kills, and we do have some variety here, which I have to give props to. We do have some creativity. There's one kill, and I will say this: the movie opens solid. I think the second act is the weakest, and I do like the third act. I think the third act does, you know, amp some stuff up. It's got more energy. It's got more action. There's some impressive stuff to be had there. Not all of it works. I do think the the actual ending kind of falls flat, but there's some stuff building up to that I liked. And
again, if you've watched any of the Scream films, or again, you know, Thanksgiving or Hard Eyes, the end will be very, very, very familiar to you. You have an unmasking, you have a monologuing villain. They throw in at the very end this kind of like uh, socioeconomic commentary, satire that was not present in the rest of the film at all. And I've seen a lot of reviews also praise this as something that the film does as though it's like embedded into and baked into the film.
In
Whereas
breaking
for
some
me,
kind of barrier for the genre.
yeah, whereas for me, it felt very thrown in, and maybe in the book, it's a little bit more
Sure.
Organic, but here it just felt like, oh, they're trying to, signal to the audience like they're on the right side of history here. And it's just, I don't know. To me, it just reeked of, I hate to say desperation, but that's what it felt like to me.
Well, I will say this, though. We do get a pretty amazing performance from Kevin Durand, and I love him. I loved him in the new Apes movie. I thought he was great. Please,
Hollywood, cast him in an Elon Musk biopic. This needs to happen.
Everyone said that when Abigail came out and the trailer first, even before that, when the trailer first landed, rather, everyone thought it was fucking Elon. They thought it was him, or that he was.
Not that I want to see an Elon Musk biopic, but I mean, but he looks very similar to him. But anyway,
he has a shitload of fun in the movie, and he's great to watch. Also, Will Sasso plays like a sheriff in this movie, and he's one of the ones with the really strange accents that I can't place, where he's trying to pretend he's from, but he's also having fun in it. So there's some people to watch in this. And also, like I said earlier, I liked Katie Douglas's Quinn Maybrook. I have to bring that up. And Carson McCormick. Now I remember where I know him from. After I watched him, like, that kid looks just like Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World.
He does.
He was in the Shazam movies. He plays Cole.
Okay.
I liked him in the movie as well. I thought they had a solid chemistry, and even that Vincent Muller kid who played Rust. There's decent stuff here. I've seen Netflix straight to streaming slasher movies that I thought the acting was horrible all around. There was nobody likable. I think some of these kids are trying their best with this, and it shows. I don't think everyone's horrible. I didn't walk away from this going, everyone was terrible. There's nothing redeemable. I agree with a lot of things you're saying, believe me. But I still,
it's just the potential.
It's frustrating the most when you watch a movie that you can tell is on the verge of being good, or it could have possibly been great, and it's just not there for you. Whereas a movie that's a total piece of shit, it's easier to walk away from that and go, well, that was a garbage fucking movie. I don't care. That's an instant trash it on the Epic Film Guys. Like, I'll never think about that movie again. But when it gets that close to it, and the potential is there, especially this material, as we're sitting here, going into it, and you're looking at the book as the basis, it's all there, man. Like, and you have the right director there. The cast here isn't even the problem. I think there's so much they could have done with this to enhance it, make it better. I don't know what that is, though. When you look at it on paper versus what's on the screen, I think there just needed to be like more of a prestige to the movie.
It feels a little cheap. There was one moment. This was remarkable timing when I don't know, would you say we were about halfway or 2/3 into the film where I said, well, at least there's been no shitty CGI blood. All the effects have been practical.
Oh my God. And then within fucking seconds, I swear to the movie,
as soon as I said it,
within seconds, there was a kill, and terrible, awful CGI blood sprays all over the screen.
Spoke too soon, I guess. It happens again later too. But I was honestly shocked at, first of all, how prophetic and brilliant my brain is, and second of all, are we still doing CGI blood in today's day and age? Really? Like, I expected more from this movie. And I expected more from the people involved. I mean, again, the people who brought a smile. Are you kidding me? Like, those movies look way more expensive than they are because they have production value. They have class. This just, it felt like a direct-to-streaming movie, although it is getting a theatrical release.
It feels like it has more of a budget than some of those other movies you mentioned. It's a Wonderful Knife, Founders Day.
Sure.
So, and it does have more of a cinematic feel. There's some beautiful shots in it. And I remember you commenting on that, some wide shots of like the cornfield, like there's a sunset and,
evocative.
There's some crane shots and stuff. So
The image when Quinn first moves to the town and she's looking outside of her window, and outside of her window is the old factory, the corn syrup factory, that has the Friendo logo on it.
Which I loved, by the way. I loved that vintage Friendo logo. And I loved
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I loved that the town had this backstory of this corn syrup factory. And now, because that's something like I'm from Binghamton, New York originally, and we used to have IBM there. We used to have the Endicott Johnson Shoe Company there, and then they all folded. And then you're driving through. You've been there once with me. I showed you all this stuff. Then there's all these old buildings just rotting, and now like the economy is terrible there. And there's this whole backstory to the town about those things. And I like that this has that kind of mythology connected to it with the Friendo character. That Friendo himself was just literally this company's mascot, and then from there it turned into this urban legend of this killer.
The smiling clown on the bottle of corn syrup. Like I like that. Again, as you put it, in mythology, but I feel like the movie doesn't do enough with it, except for that kind of shot of the looming factory. Like it needed to have more of a presence, more of a, I don't know. It just, to me, there was an amazing moment, and it's in the trailer, where this character greets Friendo, and he's so excited. He's like, "Oh my God, look, it's Friendo!" Like he's so excited. Like the movie, I feel like, needed to have more of a relationship between the townsfolk and Friendo as like an icon and a mascot.
Well,
because,
I mean,
there's a part 2 where this isn't really predicated by anything. The characters end up in jail because of course they do. It's in every single movie where the characters have to, there's a misunderstanding and they're arrested under false pretenses, and they're like, no, you have to warn everyone, Frendo's coming and he's killing. And of course they're not believed. It's in every single movie ever. But anyway, there's a guy in their cell, and he's like the creepy, Crazy Ralph character. And again, it's in the trailer where he says, "Don't fuck with Friendo." That would have been funny if again, the movie had kind of a self-awareness of like, oh, here's the Crazy Ralph-esque character. But he says that one line and then he's gone from the movie. And it's like, so why was that even there? I don't know. It just, who was that guy? The movie,
I don't know, but he was pretty fucking cool though,
I guess. But I feel like the movie just needed more of like, who is this Friendo character other than the guy who's just kind of walking, like shambling around town and just randomly killing people.
To your point, we do get an introduction to that when Quinn has her first day of school, and she gets in detention when the rest of the class prank their teacher.
Sure.
And during detention, these kids kind of start chatting and getting to know each other.
Exposition dump scene.
Yes, and they're like, "Oh, we made Friendo into a horror character because we do YouTube videos where we make the clown kill people." 65,000 subscribers. Yes, but that is in the book, and that is something that modern kids do. Modern teens, LoySauce. Are you just saying that you hate modern teens, all of them?
Yes. I am saying that.
That's absolutely something. It's no different, in my opinion, than in Scream 4, there being characters that, take the stab movies and, they go around and chronicle stuff and they do like a vlog. You know what I mean? It's something similar. So,
sure.
But
can I just say one more thing?
Oh, no, feel free. Go ahead.
I feel like I'm like an old, bitter, crotchety old man complaining about language in horror movies, but every single line does not need to contain the F word. I'm so sick to death of characters just going fuck when being chased by a killer clown. Like, I get it. Like, if I were being chased by a killer clown, would I probably let a few expletives fly? Sure. But it just got so grating. It just seems like the writers couldn't think of anything interesting or funny for their characters to say, so they just go, "Oh fuck." Yeah. Just have your character say nothing at all. if you're just gonna, I don't know. Hard Eyes is another example. I mean, Hard Eyes did it less, to a lesser extent, but we're being fucking chased by a fucking serial killer. Just say we're being chased by a serial killer. I'm no prude when it comes to language, but I'm just getting so sick to death.
I mean, you've been on the show, I don't know, for how many years? So You could be,
Well,
but even I said this. I say this about
should we
lots of
keep a
movies.
tally of how many times they
I
say
already
the F
did.
word?
I did.
It's like 50 something times, something like that. Did you
Yeah,
remember how many?
There was a lot. I mean, within the first half hour, I counted over 20 at least. So, I mean, it's not, I just don't think it is necessary. There's no more precision strikes. We talk about this on the show. We do ad nauseum. So, I mean, not trying to beat a dead horse over here or anything like that, but it is true. I mean, I haven't read the book. I'd have to read it. Is there that many fucks in the book? Who knows? But
the thing is, like in
unnecessary.
In 80s movies, like did they did they occasionally like have language in there? Sure.
Almost barely though. If you look at the Friday the 13th franchise and some of those earlier films,
there's no language in them at all.
You might get one bullshit or something. You might get one fuck or something.
Until we get to Friday Part 5.
Sure. But I'm saying, like, I don't know. A lot of the slashers back then were a little bit more on the raunchy side sometimes with the language, but it wasn't. And also that's a matter of how do kids talk now versus how they talked then.
Sure.
You know?
But
kids do today. I'm at the gym. There's kids that are like 18, 19 in their early 20s in there. What do you think? A lot of them listen to the mainstream new rap music. And if you hear that, that also says fuck every other word too, man. And I'm not being the old guy, you know, on his porch yelling at the kids in his lawn right now. I listen to tons of stuff with lots of bad language, but yeah, this movie went overboard with it. Absolutely. I agree with you. I want characters that I can at least somewhat relate to. And sometimes depending on the actor and their performance, it can make me either like them or really not like them at all. If that's the way they're speaking, you can have one character that's like, at least, I mean, for example, there's a scene, and I'm not going to go on forever about this, but there is a scene with Quinn and her father, and she says it outright to him. Now she's a senior, so she's probably 17 or 18 years old. I think they said she's 17 in the movie. She says it out loud. He doesn't even flinch. He just sits there. Like, okay, no, like watch your mouth or anything. I'm like, okay, so that's where we're at. It's just like cool for kids to be saying the F word every other word.
Sure.
Anyways, we're not prude. We used to say that the F word probably fucking 50 times on each episode, but there is something to be said about movies that are trying to be creative and witty and have characters that have personality. Is that all they have there? But anyways, I'll say that in terms of like the character stuff, some of it's okay. It's not as strong as it should be. The movie kind of just ends up making you feel like, you know, a little hollow at the end. A lot of good could have came from it, but much like you said, it just doesn't really ever reach that level. And
we've seen way worse.
Absolutely.
But we've seen way better too.
Yeah.
And again, the praise that's been lobbed at this film for doing something that, like, I mean, you dunk your hand into the tank of like slasher movies and grab a fistful, and you can pull out a fistful of movies that do this exact same thing 100 times better. So like, I don't really understand giving this such a pass when it's not really bringing anything new to the table.
That could be true. I also, like, there was I think one horror journalist there, or only a couple horror journalists. I think Bloody Disgusting was there. I don't know if Dread Central was there, but I'd be interested to see how the horror community feels about this one in you know, in terms of like versus what major critics are saying.
Or even just like, you know, beyond the festival environment. I feel like I'm not very discerning when it comes to, you know, movies like this. I love schlock. I love, you know, shitty slasher movies, but man,
this is our jam, man. This should have been our jam. That's what I said earlier. This thing felt like it was tailor made for me. I live and breathe trash. Like, you know, the slasher genre is my favorite genre of all time in the history of film. So, but that doesn't mean every single thing's going to be a home run or even close to that. So it's time to get down to it. Final thoughts and trash it or treasure it. Brian, where do you have Clown in a Cornfield?
I think I've said everything I need to say about this. I mean, I would
Pretty much.
definitely, I would trash it. The thing is, uh, there is a I appreciate what Shudder is trying to do because they're distributing um, movies for horror enthusiasts. That's their modus operandi, is bringing movies like this, and also like other kind of more interesting, more challenging movies like Oddity from last year. Or we also watched a movie recently that I would like to take a moment to shout out, called The Rule of Jenny Penn.
Yes, which did actually get a small theatrical release a week or so before we saw it.
So this is it's maybe more of a psychological thriller than it is a horror film, but that movie has so much class. It's the way that it's shot is so creative and unique, and it features performances from 2 Academy Award nominees, and it's I don't know, it's just it's campy and it's funny, but it's also full of dread, and there's really shocking scenes in it.
It's a rough one, man.
So that's one of my favorite movies of the year. And I guess what I'm saying is that I
Rule of Jenny
appreciate.
Penn, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And not Clown in a Cornfield. The Rule of Jenny Penn. The fact that Shudder offers such a wide variety of different types of horror films for different types of horror fans, or really all horror fans, is something that I think is to be commended and applauded. Clown in a Cornfield sucked.
Oh, there it is. So that's a trash it for LoySauce. And, you know, I hate to do this. This one was probably right there, right underneath the line, but it's got to be a trash it for me too. There was a lot to like, and I did enjoy quite a few things about Clown in a Cornfield, but it just didn't quite live up to the name or any expectations, whether it's a adaptation of a popular novel, throwback to modern or 90s slashers, or really anything. I think it had all of the moving parts. It had what it could have been to be a very solid modern slasher. Nothing that was going to ever break through the barriers or anything and become like a Terrifier type thing. And not that every slasher movie needs to even try to do that. Those are very few and far between. 1 out of 100, maybe even. But all it needed to be was a serviceable, good slasher, and it just didn't quite make the cut for me. So that is it.
I would be curious to read. I would be curious to read the book series, because I would like to compare and contrast, I guess, and see if there's anything in the book to be mined from the again, like maybe it has kind of a more playful tone, or maybe it does kind of delve into a little bit more kind of satirical, kind of commenting on the world that we currently live in. Any of that, because the movie barely kind of touches.
I mean, yeah, he wrote it when I think Trump was first in office the first time, right? So,
and it came out in 2020, which is when we were dealing with a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, I just really wish the movie had more kind of bite to it. As it stands, though, I'm ready to forget about it very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, since this is just a very early, we're going to release this on Patreon first, spoiler-free review. I'm sure that I will have on Jeremy and BluBrry being a fan of the book, and maybe I'll try to pull you back on. We'll see, but we will be doing a full spoiler episode as well when the movie actually comes out and discussing it in full detail. Will I feel differently about it? I don't know. Do I need to have a whole bottle of fucking Jack Daniels on the table while I'm enjoying it? I don't know. We'll see. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this spoiler-free Fresh Fright review of Clown in a Cornfield. If it's your first time listening, thank you so much. If you are a long-time listener, thanks for sticking with us. We love you. We can be found on every single podcast platform known to man, and we are at Epic Film Guys on all social media platforms, even Blue Sky, where people just love to love us. So that's it. LoySauce, thanks again for joining me on this. And until next time, I am Justin.
I am LoySauce.
And as always, we like to ask you to keep it creepy.